This is Innerdooney revisited. It's snowy again. It's snowy still. It's day, I don't know what day it is. I don't know what day of snow cover it is. You know you're having a pretty good winter when you've lost count of how many snowy days in a row they've been, or how many cold days in a row there have been. When did the snow fall? What day is it today? It's Monday today. So the snow's been here the best part of a week, hasn't it? Yeah. So as it's Monday, I was out at Bishop Hill on Friday. I didn't have a big walk on Saturday, but it was another day with the same weather, very still, very cold, very frosty, blue sky, sunshine, no wind. So we left it till quite late in the day and then came up here, actually, up Innerdooney Hill, to deliberately sort of be up for the sun setting. And part of the reason as well, of course, is because back at home, the Lowman Hills, the hill road, understandably, because everything's shut, you can't go anywhere, you can't have a holiday, everything's cancelled, there's no events, there's nothing to do. There is literally nothing else to do other than go and play in the snow, and that's what the whole world was doing. And I completely understand it, I don't blame anyone for doing it. But the road where I stay, it was an absolute nightmare with just chaos. With the gritter couldn't get through, you know, it's all blocked, so many cars parked in bonkers places, getting stuck, people knocking on the door. So we fled a wee bit west to here, to Innerdooney, where we saw just one or two other couples all the whole of the walk, and it was quiet, still, no one really up here, although a few people have been up here. This looks about the same as it did when we were up here the other day. Of course, the condition of the ground now, the snow, I mean, it's just astonishing with the hoarfrost, which now, we've had it for a few days now, so I mean, we haven't had any more snowfall since Thursday morning, so not for a few days, 4 days. So everything that you see, all the soft stuff, it's just frost. So the sun's on the snow, and it's barely been above freezing, so there's a little bit of loss, and a lot of it evaporates, so you get a loss, but because the frost is coming back and growing so substantially during the night, we're not, you know, there's no loss, there's no net loss of white goodness on the ground. It got the same depth, albeit just a bit more tinkly and soft and powdery than it was when the snow fell. Today looks like being the last day of sunshine and snow and, you know, pretty much cold. It's going to cloud over later today and into tomorrow, possibly a bit more snow before it gets milder, with rain pushing in from the southwest and the wind picking up. And the wind's already picking up today, actually. The last few days it's been really continental in terms of having that just utterly still, very warm in the sun, but cold, you know, still sub-zero. Just beautiful, and that's what lets all this frost grow. That's just why it's quite unusual to see this these days. Hoarfrost, lying thick like this. But the weather is changing, and so I was working yesterday, and I was supposed to be working today. But I asked my boss as soon as I got into work yesterday, can I have the day off tomorrow? And she just laughed because she knows me so well. Because she knows she knows I want a snow day. So this is me making the most of it, I suppose, because I've got a few days. I suppose lots of us are in the same position. I've got holiday left, I've got a holiday allocation, but you can't go anywhere, you can't do anything, you can't go overseas, you can't go book cottages, you can't do anything except just go out and walk, it seems. And so I think that's, for me personally, that's the best way to use my holiday allocation, is using it spare at the moment when the weather is like this, and thinking, oh, if I don't want to miss this, you know, this could be the last day we get that looks like this, so I've taken it as holiday. If you saw the blog I did from Innerdooney last month only, you know, the fog was coming in and didn't really get the full view, so now it's nice to be able to show you what it looks like without the fog. So this gives a nice view, actually. That's the near namesake of this, so that's Innerdooney. where I was sat up on, after dark, on the last blog or two, sat up on top of a hill with my coffee. That was there, and that's White Wisp over there, and Ben Klug is hiding over there, and Andrew Gannell Hill with that amazing ledge I was sat on is just poking up in the middle there. That's the wind farm we passed on the Cadges Yet blog, going along the Drove Road, and Corb Glen itself it's that cleft in there. That's it in there. That there is Lendrick Hill, which was up in the fog last week before heading down into Glenquake, which is down in there, hidden down there. And then you're looking out over Kinross, just seeing how bright, white, sunshiny, snowy it all is. It's just wonderful. Right, well, this is just the first port of call today. What I'm actually going to do, I was actually coming up here just to have a wander, just a stravage, a random jaunt around the forest. I want to stay up high because it is a bit milder today. I was driving it in, it was 2-3 degrees, so everything lower down is starting to melt a bit. So I want to try and stay up high. So I'm going to try and head up Mellock Hill, which is this one over here, which is only a shade lower than this one. I don't think there's any easy way through the forest, so you have to cut back the way and cut through the fire breaks through here. So we did sort of walk down a bit of those the other day, and it's really deep snow. So now I've got my snowshoes, hopefully that's going to be a bit easier. Because, well, A, not many people have been up here, and B, everyone's tended to follow exactly the same path as everyone else. It's just made this really nice trench. It reminds me of the snowshoeing trails in Switzerland that I've walked, where it just remains like this for the season. It looks like this for the season and gets occasionally topped up, keeps getting compressed, and just stays nice, you know, rather than looking a mess. I know it's a ridiculous thing to say that you want your snow to look pristine and ordered and neat and tidy. It's great getting out on the snow, but sort of it's part of the appeal, I suppose, isn't it, of wanting to be the first one out, so you don't have that sense that everything's been trashed. It's like when you come to a field and all the sheep have been busy, you know, foraging for grass, digging in the snow, and it just looks an absolute mess. Is that just me? So is it just me? Is everyone else quite rather partial to pristine snow that hasn't even been trodden by sheep or anything else? Just blabbering now. Anyway, part of the good thing actually about this kind of weather, and I've noticed this at work actually in the country parks as well, is that whereas the other 2 weeks ago, you know, everyone was falling over on ice. You know, ice was a problem because it had had a slight thaw. Refrozen, it was just a bit of a nightmare, because when it stays cold like this level of hoarfrost that you get every night, because it's so dry, it's grippy, and you keep getting this lovely sort of dry, powdery surface on top of any trodden snow, so it stays grippy. Even the snow that normally would be quite slippy, it stays grippy. Does that make sense? Anyway, this is with a tad of apprehension, because clearly this is where all the snow's accumulated. This is the fire break, this is where we're going, down here. Great, actually. And look, so soft. I'm trying to take quite small steps because I'm going to have to come back up this way. And if you take two, you know, obviously your steps are smaller when you go uphill. Okay, so left. I think this might be my most enjoyable snowshoe outing I've had in a very long time. Just the nature of what it's like underfoot with all this sprinkly hoarfrost scattering really easy to kick through. I haven't felt anything like that underfoot since probably a very memorable snowshoe over Skurgui in the Cairngorms from Feshy Bridge when it was -20 down in the glen. So we had days of hoarfrost back in, when was that? February 2010, I think. Yeah, so it compacted a lot underneath, and it just had this soft layer of maybe 3 or 4 inches of hoarfrost on top that just kicked. So you got purchase, you moved quickly, but you still got that sense from doing, you know, all this business of scattering stuff. You still felt like you were kicking through snow, and the snowshoes were needed. It was just sublime. And this is like that. Even though I haven't got the sun's over there. See the difference it makes, just the sun being on those trees. Everything's just falling away. Isn't it lovely? Does it feel like Kinross to you? You could be anywhere, you could be miles away from anywhere. It's amazing. It's beautiful. That's of course is for shooting deer, roe deer. Sit up there and just keep quiet and watch them come. Well, given it's so sunny and warm, I mean it's generally warm in that sun, and sheltered, I think this is as good a place as any to stop for a little bit. Every now and then something falls off the trees, hoarfrost mainly, and it just drifts through this ride like there. Everything's sparkling. It's almost like it's snowing, but it's snowing ice crystals instead of anything more substantial. It's just, it's magical, isn't it? Even the thaw is beautiful. There's something really nice about just wandering without having any particular desire to get to a particular summit or a goal. I mean, I had in mind I was going to pass over in Naduni. I knew I was going to do that much, and I had half a mind to go over to Mellock Hill, but I wasn't dead set on it. It's nice to be able to have that flexibility, I suppose, and just go where the wind takes you. It's nice just to be able to take your time and stop in places like this. And when I do go for wanders like this, I never, you know you're going to have a nice time, but I never really know what it is I'm looking for, but I know what it is when I see it. And it's something like this, you know, it's coming along these rides and then ending up something like this. And this pocket of sunshine is very small, just where this ride sort of does a zigzag, and you're exposed to the sun at this point. And that might be, this could be the only decent, sheltered, sunny, snowy spot I get all day. But just having this, finding this, standing here, having coffee, hoarfrost falling off the trees, the quiet, blue sky, sunshine, snow, cold, just makes the whole day worthwhile. And who knows what the rest of the day will bring. Just love it. Look at all the hoarfrost on this hut, on the window, all over the panels. It's just everywhere. It's just amazing, eh? These little crystals, so beautiful. Of course, they really come into their own when at night time, when you start getting that sparkle. Coming down off here 2 days ago, actually, with the torches, and I mean, I talk about it all the time, and I write about it a lot, about trying to convey to people on social media, you know, the joy of walking at night in snow, and how this sparkling thing happens. And everyone kind of knows what you mean, but it's hard to do it justice just by talking about it, but it looked, so I filmed some of it 2 nights ago, and you can just get the set, you know, it's pretty accurate representation of what it's like actually, just the whole landscape sparkling as you're walking along. And then actually, when I got home that night, I actually went out snowshoeing in the fields next to where I stay, and the moon was almost a full moon. You didn't need a torch, and even that, you know, even sort of a soft moon was enough just to make the whole landscape sparkle. And just now, I mean, some of these, it's not surprising, because as they build up over several days, I mean, they're big, and these are all reflective, amazing, like little plectrums, like guitar plectrums. These triangles, just exquisite, amazing, and that's all this is. Look at it, that's it, hoarfrost, all of it. These little feathers, these little plectrum-shaped crystals that just keep getting bigger and bigger when you get cold weather like this. Surface hoar, just wonderful, makes the most amazing noise. I mean, it is on everything, but some things do grow more crystals than others when they're particularly sheltered, or if they've been escaping the sun for a while. But just look, all these branches, these spruce branches, are completely covered in them. It's not snow at all. It might have been to start off with, but now it is just hoarfrost. Exquisite. Almost like furry trees. Just love it. Don't like destroying things, but it's amazing. And they're really long, you know, about an inch long, those. Amazing. Right, we're at another junction. Left turn down there, right turn. Looking on the, I'm going to go right here, looking on the 1 to 50,000 maps, there's no forest tracks marked on here at all, there's no rides marked. You go down to 1 to 25, and there's a few, but these ones aren't on it. It is a case of going onto satellite imagery, Bing Maps, which seems to be more up to date than Google a lot of the time. Like I said in the previous blog, trying to navigate your way around these plantations, it is useful to have an aerial view, a recent aerial view, to find out where all these things are. So before I came out, I did check and memorised that I knew I had to go right, then left, and that'll bring me out at the edge of the forest to go up Mellock Hill, in theory. Another junction. This is our left. I've done 2 rights, ignoring that one. This is the one we want. And there we go. That's it, opening up. Access to the hill. Well, it's a bit of a shock, to be honest, coming out of the forest into the wind and the cold again. As you can see, it's not, with the fences and straight edges of plantations and that, it's not the most attractive of landscapes in itself. But as you see, as of that moment back there in the forest, you can always find moments, exquisite moments, anywhere you are, and it's always nice to be out. And it's so quiet. It's a big flock of bullfinches working its way along the fence. I keep pushing them on. There's about 30 or 40 of them. Hard existence up here this time of year. Beautiful sound they make, beautiful call bullfinches have got when they fly overhead. Very distinctive. Quite a sad, melancholy call, but softer than most other birds are. It's just a really nice accompaniment to a walk. It's just me and a hare for company, making our way up this fence line. Well, the snow's getting more difficult. I can feel the thaw under my feet, just a bit stickier, not quite as soft. Oh, it's quite hard going. It's nice though, even though I do keep sinking a bit. This feels kind of like a summit. Everything's flattening out. Views are opening up. It's been the theme ever since lockdown, having to use all these local hills. These hills are between 400, 500 metres high. I keep saying it, they're only small, but they don't often make you work. It's rough ground, lots of fences, very exposed, so you get the drifting a lot. But we're almost there. Oh, there we go. Well, if anything, it's actually probably a better view than you get from up on Inaduni, which is that one over there in the forest. When you're up on Inaduni, you're in the forest, so you've got trees in your way a lot of the part. You can see farther north to the Cairngorms from up there, but seeing this has got 1 foot in the lowlands, you kind of want that lowland view, I suppose. And so looking out this way, it feels like a much bigger, much more expansive view. I prefer it of the two, actually, in terms of the views. They've both got very different characters, but in terms of what you can actually see from up here, wanting to get a view over Kinross to Loch Leven and the Lomond Hills beyond, this is a pretty good viewpoint. It's always nice to get a different perspective on familiar places, especially when it's your home. I haven't seen the Lomond Hills from this angle before, when you've got West Lomond on the left, East Lomond on the right, so close together like that. You could be forgiven for thinking they're almost joined and being part of the same hill, when of course when you see them from a great big distance apart, they're quite, you know, they're separated by a massive long plateau west to east. But it's interesting to see them like that, going along Bishop Hill all the way over there, and that's Loch Leven coming into view across the whole of Kinross, really, looking over to Benarty Hill, and then out towards Blair Adam and the Cleash Hills and all that over there. Massive view. That was the ride that we came down, and then we'll be going back up, looking up to the top of Inaduni up there. I did have a plan, well, not so much of a plan. I'd had a glance at the map of places I might go, so I was either going to come over here or I was going to start going exploring all these forest tracks over here. I just wanted somewhere that was going to be holding the snow, that was going to have enough snow for snowshoeing. So that's why I opted for this part of the world again. Because as nice as it is to be out on sort of open hillsides and that, they do, because there's no obstacles, there's no trees, a lot of the snow does get blasted off. So for reliable snow, it is better sometimes to go for forests, isn't it? And this comes back to this recurring theme of the last few blogs about how much different the outdoor experience would be in Scotland if we did have more woodlands higher up hills. You certainly get, you know, you'd keep more snow on the hill if anything. You see, when it was windy the other day, when all this snow was falling, and you watched it getting, blasted off, this great big maelstrom, clouds of it, everything that falls gets blasted off and gets carted away somewhere else, not necessarily deposited elsewhere, but just blasted off the hill completely, never to be seen again. So there's a lot of loss in terms of snow before it even settles. So it's quite nice going to the forest and actually have that experience of walking in deep snow, which is what we had in there. I wouldn't normally go walking through forest rides like that, or fire breaks. Certainly not in summer if I can help it, because they are quite monotonous, stark. Yeah, it's just a straight line, isn't it? Green, dark green, and then sort of brown or light green of the grass down the below in the ride. It's just not a very dynamic place with much variety. But when it's like this, like I keep saying, snow just makes everything look better. And those rides really do hold it. They really do gather the snow, and because they're so sheltered from the sun and from the wind, that's where you do get all this hoarfrost that's growing. It grows, hoarfrost. Of course, the thing about hoarfrost though is I mean, it's very beautiful and it looks amazing and it sounds amazing and it's lovely to walk through, but it's a really, I mean, it doesn't bond at all. It's ice crystal, so there's no, if you get snow on top of it, so if you get a thick layer of hoarfrost, and then you get snow on top, it's a really weak layer in the snowpack, and it's a real big problem in places like North America and the Alps, colder places where you'll get, the kind of weather we've had the last few days, but even colder, so you'll get a lot of hoarfrost, what they call surface hoar. It builds up for days and days and days, and then you get massive heavy snow, a metre, 2 metres like they've had in the recent weeks on top of it. And you might think that all that weight, maybe it'll just squish it down and somehow it'll bond, but it doesn't. Unless there's a major thaw like we get in this country, but it doesn't. So it's a real worry. It's a real headache for sort of backcountry folk in continental places. And I know there's been surface haul for a long time, and then you get heavy snow on top. It's going to be a weak layer. So that's when the whole mountainside will shift and slide. Feet and feet of snow deep. The whole mountainside will go. So it's very beautiful, but it's very dangerous in certain parts of the world. Actually, even here, even in Scotland as well, if you get the right conditions for it to form, that is the weak layer. Interestingly, there was just the other day photos on Facebook doing the rounds on West Lomond, not the side that we're looking at here, but on the other side, because the side we're looking at here, that's the direction the wind's been going to. So west to east, the other side of West Lomond that you can't see, that's where all the snow's been transported to. That's the Leyden side. There was an avalanche, it appears, a slab, wind slab avalanche, certainly in the last week sometime. Just like there was in the Pentlands on Turnhouse Hill that I was talking about in the last blog. It happens. It does happen here, even on small hills like this. That wasn't from hoarfrost necessarily, I don't think necessarily. That was wind slab, just forms unstable layers anyway. But it only takes one person to trigger it. And certainly when I was up West Lomond the other day after doing Bishop Hill, there were plenty of folk sort of sledging or skiing or just arse sliding all the way down the hill, down that, because that's where all the snow is. You want to go down the side that's, snowiest. I don't blame people for doing it, but I doubt it ever even occurs to people that could all go, that whole hillside could go, and it could bury you. So it is something to be aware of when we get prolonged cold, snowy conditions, even in modest hills like this. Well, this is realistically my final day in this spell of getting out and enjoying the snow before it goes. It looks like it might snow tomorrow, and then it's going to get mild, then the rain's coming in, and then who knows? They're calling it on the wet, on the BBC and that, they're calling it mild, but 4 or 5 degrees isn't, in modern terms, where we get winters when you get, frequently into double digits, that's not mild. So it's still cool, and there are whispers of it maybe turning colder again in February. So who knows? It could go either way as ever, but it certainly has been a memorable spell of cold and winter so far, and I'm extremely happy and I'm very confident. I feel very content that I have made the absolute most of the snow we've had in my local patch around here. Taking a day off today, I'd have been gutted. I think if this had ended and I hadn't got out as much as I had, I would have felt like I'd wasted it and wasted that only opportunity. Because who knows? The last 2 winters have been pants. Next year could be pants. They could all be pants after this. Who knows? You just don't know. That's why you've got to get out now and enjoy it. So I'm glad I've come out today. I feel like I have actually made the best of this winter so far. Long may it continue. Right, back the way we came, I think. Thoroughly enjoyable, as ever. See you next time. Oh my God. I I know it probably seems like something from Blair Witch Project, but this did something really stupid. If you can hear that, there's a forestry harvester on the path, and because it was getting dark and I was coming down off the hill, he wasn't going to see me even with my light, and I know well enough from work not to go walking past forders and harvesters, especially when I don't know they're there and they're felling trees and cutting up wood. So I decided to head north because I knew that this other track was sort of a bit lower down, but I couldn't quite remember how far away it was. So I found what I thought was a ride, a fire break, and just pushed on. And what I should have done, I should have stopped and turned back immediately once the spruce got really dense. I mean, it's just crazy dense, and it was ripping my head torch off. You can't see what's underneath your feet, it's that dense. I was getting scratched. And it's, you know, it's so close to home, and it's, you know, it feels, plantations in a way feel tame because they've got these forest, you know, these tracks, and oh God, I was starting to get scared, genuinely scared. And I got my compass with me, and I should have taken that out and taken a bearing, but it's that thing of complacency, you know, you sort of think you're pushing on in the right direction, it'll be fine, you'll get there eventually, but it all looks the same. And I mean, it was so dense, I had to sort of force my way through, and I couldn't see, and it was hitting me in the eyes. And then I looked up, because there's this tall, look, I don't know if you can see it, it's a big tall row of trees that mark where Muckle Rig, this path is. So I knew to aim for that, because I knew the tall trees were here, but even so, after I emerged through like a 20-metre section of spruce, panting, soaking wet now, I looked up and the moon was in a completely different location. It was right in front of me. And the moon, if you can see it, I don't know if you can see it, it's up there behind me. It's scary how, you know, because you get deflected left and right by dense vegetation, and then you're not really paying attention. And before you know it, you're heading off back the way you came. So after that, I knew to keep the moon behind me. But even so, I mean, I'm really annoyed at myself. It's just such a stupid thing to do in the dark, and not, you know, oh, it's so stupid, so stupid. But I wanted to acknowledge it. I wanted to just sort of, even for my own sake, just to, as a slap in the face, a kick up the arse, that I've just been very, very stupid. And it was genuinely, towards the end there, I was genuinely getting scared and thinking, you know, how do I find my way out of this? Anyway, I'm on the track now, so I'm okay to get back, but that was really, really stupid. Complacency. I mean, this is where I've just emerged. You can see it. I mean, look at it. Trying to, and at times it was like that, you know, having to close my eyes to push. I mean, this bag of snow, but just gives you an indication of what was going on. And that's where I've emerged. That's where I should have come down. This one here. It's just so still and quiet now. So peaceful. Can't even hear the harvester anymore, can't hear any machinery. What's really sobering is how many warning signs there were, or there are in situations like this, that your brain's screaming at you to stop. It's just that thing, isn't it, of, you know, just a little bit further, oh, it's just a little bit further, it'll be fine. And then all the while I was thinking to start off with, well, if it starts getting a bit too much, I can at least double back. I can follow my footprints back. If this is a bad idea, I can follow my footprints back. And that was fine when I was actually going through a proper ride, but as it got thicker and thicker, there's not a hope in hell of finding my way back the way I came after that. I feel so chastised, I feel so, I don't know, just really annoyed with myself. Mistakes are sort of all right, aren't they? If you survive them and you learn from things. Well, I can't imagine how many people are in similar situations, not necessarily of the type that I was just in, pushing through a forest like that, but in any situation that people are in, where they're thinking, no, maybe I should stop, this isn't a good idea, and this bizarre thing in your head, I don't understand it. I don't understand how I can ignore a voice that's screaming like that. I don't know how any of us can do that. I've been quite good in recent years of actually, especially on hills, when the weather's bad, not going for the top. I've kind of patted myself on the back thinking I've learnt my lesson from a few times actually, when I was on the Memoirs and a stupid accident I had sort of 16, 17 years ago, because I didn't have my ice axe and crampons with me, and I knew I should have, and I made lots of mistakes then. I thought, and I had a couple of other things in quick succession. I thought I'd learned from them, but it's not a case of learn once, is it? And then you're sorted. It slips, and you get complacent because this is a familiar place, familiar walk. You're thinking, oh, it's just a forest. I can push through a forest. I haven't felt fear like that in a long time. Desperate, that desperation. And although you get yourself into that situation gradually, the fear of you might get lost, it rushes up on you really quick. Panic's setting in fairly quick, and I was trying to tell myself on a few occasions, just stop, just breathe, because my breathing was starting to really get exaggerated, panting, anxiety, panic. God. I'm going to be processing that for a long time.